welcome to a special episode of Equilibrium. I'm Bria.
I'm Tim.
This is my husband, Tim. He's white.
Everyone knows.
Okay, but I want to welcome anyone new that's just tuning in. Like, they maybe don't know.
They'll be able to tell that I'm white.
But some people can't tell.
Okay.
We've encountered several people that want you to be mixed.
That's Atlanta, which Atlanta is very backwards, and it's surprising that that interracial marriage is even legal here.
Well, we only became legal like 20 years ago.
In Alabama, it was in like 2000, 2001.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy.
Like, I know when you spotted me, you were like, I want her to be my wife. Like, if we were way back then, like, that couldn't have happened.
When I spotted you, that didn't happen.
It did. But we're actually filming this on Loving Day, so wow. Happy Loving Day.
Happy Loving Day. Most people probably don't even know what that is.
Look it up, guys.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do a special episode of Equilibrium, obviously because the country we're in
turmoil.
We're in turmoil, and we thought it would be a little tone deaf to just have like this really fun episode where we're just like playing around in here. So that's why we wanted to have an honest conversation about kind of everything that's going on. I think we have an interesting take because, you know, you're white and I'm black. And
we're in the South.
We're in the South.
Like
met in the
worst.
South. Grew up in the South, like you did. And
yeah.
Here we are.
Okay,
so we're in the pandemic right now, and that was taking over all of the media.
What do you mean? That's gone.
The pandemic?
COVID does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
Especially not in Georgia.
It never existed here.
Nah, that governor's just like, wow, I don't believe
I can't even listen to him. But anyway, yeah, COVID doesn't exist down here. No one ever wears a mask. People just it's like a normal day for people. Like, no one ever was like at home. This is the first time I put on real clothes in months.
You see 98-year-old men walking down the sidewalk in groups. Like, not together, but they're that would be weird. That'd be like a loose nursing home or something.
I wasn't.
Like a 90-year-old man is just walking through these crowds, no care at all. Gonna see your obituary next week. Except it's gonna say that he died of kidney failure. Weird.
Wow. Okay. All right. But on May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was brutally murdered in the streets of Minneapolis, and it sparked protests around the nation as well as in other countries around the world. So we're obviously a part of I think it's the largest civil rights movement, not only of our lifetimes, but ever, because it was everywhere, and it's been great to see.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Has to be the biggest.
I think it is the biggest because it's everywhere, and it was in all 50 states, which is surprising.
All these countries that I would not expect it to be in, like Italy. I would not expect Italy. They have some incidents.
You said it's a lot of incidents with their soccer players, right?
Yeah.
But
it could just be athletes. I haven't necessarily heard of stuff outside of soccer games and stuff.
I'm sure.
People get really wild at soccer games. They start throwing. In Italy, people get shot.
They have
flares,
there?
flares thrown onto the field. Yeah, it's wild. But anyway, that's not what this is about.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, we do want to have this honest conversation about racism and discrimination and just kind of what's going on. So, because of the protests and because I'm actually really surprised that they're making so much progress with this. Because of the protests, they're actually, putting in more police reform. And, people are calling for defunding the police departments and everything within their cities. What do you think about that?
Well, I think most people who are against defunding the police don't understand what they're actually trying to get with that. Most of the people, I've seen people on Facebook and stuff like that, the ignorance in the world, they think that we're talking about getting rid of the police force in its entirety, and it's not. It's just cutting the funding, where these police departments should not have all this riot gear, have tanks. Mm-hmm. There's a city in Alabama that has 10,000 people, and they have an actual military tank.
For what?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
But
besides brutally murdering people.
But yeah, like the problem is you've like defunded education for years. You've defunded like all these other things.
Who?
Yeah, that's
During a
Trumpies. But yeah, like if you take the money out of the police department and put it into education, then you won't have these like completely stupid people being police officers anymore. Because like you don't have to have an education to be a cop.
Now, have you ever had an encounter with a cop?
Yeah, I've had quite a few.
And tell me about your interactions. Like, how do you normally deal with that?
I mean, like the first time I got pulled over, I was just like a scared child. It was like first semester at Auburn University, got pulled over for not wearing my seatbelt, which I was wearing my seatbelt, and definitely was trying to do some profiling there, and then he realized that I was a small white boy in Auburn, Alabama, and he's like, okay, go about your day.
Why do you say it's profiling?
Because I got pulled over 3 times going into the same parking lot for the same thing. Every time he said I was not wearing my seatbelt. And then I got pulled over a 4th time in the middle of Georgia for literally the same thing.
Was it like your car? Like where
Well,
you,
that's what I'm getting to. When I got pulled over by the woman in Georgia, she made a comment about it being a black car and I shouldn't drive something so suspicious. The car was painted white, so she can't be saying that it was.
No.
And it's even stupid because it was a 1994 Camaro, which the majority of the people I've ever seen drive one of those, like the like a redneck dream car is a Camaro. It's like a Corvette's like the dream car, but a Camaro is like a poor person's Corvette. So like I don't even know where that came from, but I didn't even think about it at that time in my life because I was like extremely angry that I was being inconvenienced, and I went off on 2 of those police officers.
That is absolutely crazy that like you have these encounters and don't even think of it as being discriminatory, and then you can like go off on police officers and nothing happens to you.
Looking back, I'm surprised nothing happened on 2 of those occasions, and if you had been in the car, things would have gone very badly.
And that's the only time I've ever encountered the police is when I'm in the car with you. Like Tim is always speeding.
I'm not speeding.
Tim don't wear no seatbelt. I'm just joking, but you do speed sometimes.
I've gotten 1 speeding ticket.
You ran a stoplight, and
the sign was over here.
There's no excuses,
it was a
sir.
no turn.
You should be
it
aware.
It was a no right turn on red.
Got me stressed out
and the
here.
sign was
Getting
over here
pulled
to the
over.
left.
I'm like, I can't do this in my skin. Like it was
Cops
a lot.
are deceptive. Cops are a problem across the board.
So
I hate them.
it stresses me out. Obviously, that's the only time I've ever been like with the police is when I'm with you. Like I drive very cautiously.
You had a police incident in college you told me about where they asked for your ID.
Yes, I forgot about that. Okay, so there's one time. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
So Auburn University, I was with my black friend, like 2 or 3 a.m. I think we're on campus, like outside of my dorm. We're just like sitting there talking, and a police officer comes up to us, and he's like, "What are you guys doing out here?" Like just kind of like asking us like what we're doing. We're just like, "Oh, we're just like sitting here talking. Like my dorm's right here. Like we're students here." And I think he said there's been like burglaries or like some sort of excuse, and he like asked us for IDs, and like I had a Virginia license at the time, and my friend had like an Alabama one, and so we gave it to them. And now that I'm a grown woman, like you obviously can't just ask to see identification like that without like a cause. So that was that one time, and that was with a black guy. And then the second time this happened to me, I was with a white guy in a Walmart like parking lot, probably like really like again like early in the morning. Totally normal, just like, hey guys, like there's been some stuff that's happening, you know, just like didn't ask for an ID. He talked to him, it was totally normal, went on with his business. So it's just like that is, but nothing ever like got escalated. But it's just the difference between like who you're with, and so here we are.
Yeah, I had so like there were multiple times where I was out very late on campus, different times, different groups of people and stuff. But I had a car club meet in one of the parking decks at Auburn. And like, we did this like 12 times and never had an issue, but the cops came up on it one time. That's the only time they ever checked IDs or anything if we passed by the cops late at night. And it wasn't even late, it was like 1 a.m. But
take now that I'm like 40.
Yeah. They took all of our IDs though, and were like, if you ever come back in this parking deck, like if we ever catch you loitering in this parking deck again, we'll arrest you for it. We weren't doing burnouts, we weren't doing anything.
Did you used to do burnouts? That's not this type of episode. Keep going.
I couldn't in that car. That car was way too slow.
Is it still the Camaro?
That was a Camaro.
Okay.
But yeah, that group though was very diverse. So that's
fine.
That's the difference.
That's fine.
And they were like, you don't need to be hanging around those people. We're
That's
gonna
what they
arrest
told you?
That in principle.
Gosh.
In principle. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That's Auburn police for
It's
you.
Auburn. That's the police everywhere, clearly.
Well, yeah. But I was just saying that's Auburn because Auburn is probably on the lower end of.
Alabama's on the lower end of everything.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know why I had to say it like that. Anyway, so one of the big things that happened in Atlanta was that made actual national news was when they tased the 2 college students.
Ridiculous.
And they're just in their car, like coming home from class, or maybe it was like their job, and they just like break out their windows, drag them out the car, like tase, like what? They got fired, and they're like trying to sue Keisha Lance, the mayor, and the police department for firing them.
Well, we all know how the state of Florida is, and there's a police department in Florida who has offered them a job. Any police officer who gets fired for this kind of stuff, they have a job waiting on them down there. We all know how Florida is there. Like, that is why it is Trump's vacation home.
It just makes me literally sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
When I think about like that there are people out there that are still like this.
Getting paid to be that way.
I know. And literally our country is run by the type of person. So they've been talking about defunding the police, obviously, and there's a new bill in Congress right now where it's talking about improving efforts for police training and racial profiling, which I don't really know if that'll work.
No.
Making it so that people can sue police departments and police officers if they are violating their constitutional rights, which I'm like, why was that never a thing? They're making it so that...
Well, we also found out this week that there are 35 states. Well, it's 36, but one just changed this. 35 states where the police can rape someone who they have in custody, and that person cannot sue or press charges against the police officer. This is America.
This is America.
With
Also,
3 Ks.
yeah, for real. Did you see that movie?
No. Did I? I don't know.
Georgia, we found out because of Ahmaud Arbery, his brutal murder, that you can't even charge people for it. Like, hate crimes don't exist here. Like, you can't.
Because the Klan is from Georgia. It is their home, their birthplace.
I'm so exhausted.
The Klan actually burned crosses on a bridge between Auburn and Tuskegee. That was last week, I believe, and they were protesting in Birmingham. And the police, who have been brutalizing protesters for Black Lives Matter, they lined up to protect the Klan from being attacked by Black Lives Matter.
Same group of people.
Yeah.
Here.
And they're also not labeled a terrorist organization, even though there's people who have. There's a petition for that right now. We'll see.
That won't happen.
The Klan, they're literally congressmen that are Klan members.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so speaking of the KKK, the Confederates, which is all the same,
Yes.
they have been talking about removing all their statues around the nation, as well as any sort of buildings that are named after them, street names are being renamed, or people are trying to push for all of that. I am elated that that is happening, but I'm like, it's 2020. Like, I don't even know why it's even still a factor and why we still even have to fight for this stuff. But that's like a whole situation. How do you feel about it?
Well, I have been elated to see people taking it upon themselves to destroy these monuments that weren't even, you can't, like, all these like heritage not hate kind of people are trying to say it's history, but like the statues were put up like 50 years after the Civil War. That's not a part of any kind of history. Like, there's not like destroying a battlefield, artifacts from the Civil War itself. If you want that, put it in a museum. But like, a statue which is literally to glorify the person who was fighting for slavery.
And literally to remind every single person
Yeah.
who's still in charge.
There is a sons or daughters or whatever that trash is of the Confederacy monument in Tuskegee, Alabama, which is like, what, 98% black?
Here's your reminder. You are still being oppressed. So, speaking of putting these things in museums, it's actually illegal to do that in Georgia because, again, another law says that the statues cannot be put in museums and that they must, if they are removed in any capacity, they have to be placed in another place of like the same prominence. So there's a Confederate statue at the Capitol building of like Atlanta or something, and that people are calling for to be removed, and it's still there. It is still there, and they are guarding it because.
What's the monument for the presidents called that
Mount
has like
Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore. So I can't remember that, but so there's basically a Confederate version of Mount Rushmore in Stone Mountain, Georgia, the home of the Ku Klux Klan. Surprise, surprise that it would be in that location. Yeah, it's like built into Stone Mountain. I have really been waiting.
Heavens.
I really just want some great citizen with great intentions to go out there, some extra C4, extra dynamite, something.
Go get my channel shut down.
I would love to see that blown off the side of the mountain. Like, I would have a celebratory dinner.
What you gonna get?
Probably some seafood.
I knew you were gonna say seafood.
Some stuffed crab.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
So weird. Okay, so
Be very well deserved. I would buy that person dinner if they did it.
in addition to this, NASCAR, which is like kind of has actually decided to ban all Confederate flags at their events, which is crazy.
Yeah, I was very surprised by that.
That was the one that I was like, wow, like this is really getting traction. Like I'm so excited.
I think they think that they're going to get more fans from minorities and young people by doing that. Because, like, it's NASCAR. You've got, like, in 2020, you've got, like, 13 fans left in NASCAR before this point. Maybe more now. But there were 13 fans.
Those things look pretty crowded out there with a lot of, like...
Well, no, but, like, every fan that they have was there pretty much. And because they're able to represent their Confederate roots. Even though that has nothing to do with racing, but whatever. But yeah, it's just funny because like before they had like essentially like 13 fans, 12 teeth among them, 14 Confederate flags.
You a mess. Okay, so another brand that actually has come under fire for not acting right is Starbucks, where they said that they don't want any sort of political statements, anything, so they banned their employees from wearing any sort of Black Lives Matter, anything, any sort of support. But on the other hand, they have rainbow totes and rainbow mugs and stuff for Pride Month, which is June. And it's like, that's...
Their target customer is a Karen.
Like, what? So, I don't really, like, go to Starbucks. I go, like, occasionally get, like, a scone, like, once every 6 months.
Won't be anymore.
Won't be anymore. And we normally go in there to, like, use the restroom when we're on, like, road trips. But you're still going to go in there for it?
Yeah, even though I'll probably get COVID, but it's alright.
What? Yeah, I forget about COVID all the time.
Can't forget about COVID.
Don't forget about
no
COVID.
No road trips.
Do not leave your homes. So, that's all I have.
Has Chick-fil-A said anything?
Chick-fil-A care?
Yeah, I know. That's why I was wondering if they had, like, put out something fake.
No, I'm so sorry.
I just feel like there's a lot of businesses where we know in the corporate world they do not support African American employees.
No one does.
Well, yeah, that was my point, especially like.
I'm just like reiterating it for you at like a louder volume.
Okay.
As a black person.
Yeah, but I feel like this is just like a fad because like all of them like posting the solid black pictures on Instagram that day, and like for a while everybody was putting out like rainbow products and stuff because that was a fad. You saw it in every TV show, you saw it in every business advertisement. It's like love is love, and it's like, okay, but you're still racist.
and oppressing,
and
not
now you're
hiring
like,
gay people or not doing like any of these groups.
Yeah, so it's just a fad. Like by the end of this year, we're gonna have like COVID-19 Lives Matter, and they're gonna be putting out stuff like that, like survivors of COVID. They're gonna have a totally different fad that they've moved on to.
Yeah, I just wasn't.
Hopefully it does some good, but I just feel like a lot of these businesses are fake.
You know how I mean, I wrote an entire blog about it. Like, I
Yeah.
do not believe any of these things. Even our alma mater, Auburn University, put out a statement like, we want to listen to Black voices, and it's like, okay, like I'm glad you decided to take like some time out of your day to like write this because you were going to get some pressure from people, and that's the only reason.
They probably had like a Black intern write that for them.
Oh, for sure. They're like, hey, can you? Because the Black intern probably had to like speak up and be like, did you want to maybe say something about this? But I just, all these companies, I think they are completely full of it, and I mean, the only person that I was like, wow, which is surprising, was your friend Nick Saban.
Yeah. Well, Alabama in general. Alabama announced they were like getting rid of all the Confederate monuments, and they're going to rename the buildings that are named after like Confederate generals or whatever they were.
Tuscaloosa.
Losers.
Tuscaloosa was the, like, when you imagine the South, like I imagine
like Sweet Home Alabama.
I never even seen that movie, but yeah, like those types of like things. Alabama, like Tuscaloosa, looks like that, where it's like these brick buildings and like these big, long, like tall trees and like racism around every corner.
I mean, it was.
I'm like surprised that they're actually doing all of that. Like when I was there, I was like, for like a few hours, I was like, it's racist.
I remember when I went to the Iron Bowl back in 2012, I think it was. I went with a Black guy that you know, won't refer to him by name, but I can't remember what happened. We were like going to the concession stand and somebody yelled like the N-word at him and to get out of the way.
Did he get out of the way?
No, we like stood there and blocked the guy.
What
for 10
happened?
minutes. Nothing else happened. It was just like,
Did
you know how I'm vengeful?
Yes. Why did you fight them?
No, I just blocked him from seeing the game. He was like this elderly man, like in a wheelchair, and I was like, I know you can't stand up, so I'm gonna block you and you can't see the game now. Racist.
What did your friend say?
I think he just like shook his head and was like gonna walk off. But I'm like, the vengefulness.
Because you can do that though.
I can.
We can't be acting out like that.
Yeah, I think he just went and got his.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't do that. Like I always think about that. Like what would I do?
I'm not getting arrested.
Yeah, you can. That's why I'm like, if people like, I feel like we go to like stores and like people try to like be rude to me and stuff, and Tim is just like little do you know, I'm with this big white man and he will come for you.
Yeah.
Like I can't do it, but you got
that woman in Raleigh that tried to attack me and threw her into a shelf. Hope she lost it too.
I just think it's a very different America for.
Yeah. I think it's finally like young white people are finally like taking a stand like against their parents and stuff, because like we all know this is like it's generational, like it's grandparent to parent, like it gets better each generation, maybe not in Alabama, but you know it should be. But yeah, that's the thing though, like I've seen so many people on Facebook where they're like arguing with their parents on Facebook, and they're like, all right, well, I'm literally never.
A lot of people don't even speak to their parents anymore. Yeah, a lot of people don't speak to their parents anymore. I think even when like during election time, like people who were like going hard for that man were like.
I mean, to be fair, if you support Donald Trump, you are a racist.
I can't even. You know my thoughts. I can't deal. I can't do it. But I get it. Yeah. It's such a polarizing time right now that I'm like. If you support any of these things in any capacity, like Confederate statues being a thing, like police right now, like Trump, I can't. That's
where I think, like, they keep talking about, like, the divide in America and everything, but I think, like, that's the only positive that you can get from this presidency is that, like, it's so divisive that it is like brought like there's a good side, a very clear good side, and like if you are still supporting him, you are the opposition, you are like a group of terrorists.
Yes, but I also feel like that is not good in any capacity. Like, we actually need a leader. We actually need someone that can bring the... I've been sitting here crying in quarantine and watching stuff with Michelle Obama and Barack Obama because I'm like,
oh yeah,
this is such a beautiful, like, these are such beautiful people with such beautiful messages that make me feel better, and I feel hopeful. And I feel even hopeful now watching the protests and seeing these young people like go out and do like go so hard for these causes, where I'm like,
they really recovered from Tide Pods.
you a mess. But yes, and their bad music. But I feel hopeful. I feel Yin Yang Twins been whispering since 2000. Okay?
I didn't listen.
And you love that stuff.
I didn't listen.
Me either. But anyway, yeah, so I feel hopeful. I'm feeling better about it, but I just really hope that we can get some serious, like, you can put out these messages, but I feel like I want some, like, action. Hire some Black people, make it happen, you know?
Yeah.
Listen to them. But thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you for the finale of season 2. It'll go back to normal next time, so Tim will be back to crazy. But we will see you for the special July 14th episode, and I'm excited. We'll see you then.
We'll be right here.
We'll be right here with our party hats.
Oh, God.
See you next episode. That's not that type of episode.